Damn, that shit just start recording. I didn't even tell it to record. It just started recording. What the fuck? That's a sign. The Night of Venus. The Soul of Andromeda. A.k.a. Common Motherfucking Sense. Now, I wasn't even about to start recording just yet. But that's a sign I gotta just jump into it. You know what I'm saying? That's a segue real fast, too. Like, once you have an inspiration, just jump into it. Like, don't bitch out. Don't find reasons why not to do it, and don't talk yourself out of it. If you get an inspiration, try your hardest in that moment to live that inspiration out, if that's what you want to do. Because not all inspirations you necessarily want to live out. But back to what I'm saying, though. Even in... Oh, you wanted my fault. Oh, here. Even in just that example alone, that little segue right there. Living out your inspirations. That's tapping into my original message. Dorian with 3 eyes, you know what I'm saying? Coming in with insight, inspiration, individuality. Or bringing some sort of spiritual intention into my creations. Or showing you how you can do the same with yours. You know what I'm saying? Mainly through insight, inspiration, and individuality. But I want to talk about a different type of inward energy right now. I want to talk about... One thing I want to talk about is the infiltrator energy. You know what I'm saying? And that is talking about why I come here as the Knight of Venus. And we'll get deeper into that. But just, if you already been paying attention, I've been using a whole lot of words with N. You know, I-N, this, that, and the third. And all of that is just pointing to this bigger idea of the divine feminine. You know what I'm saying? That receptive energy. Taking things in. Receiving things. Like a cup. Like this symbol. Like V for Venus, for the astrologers out there who already understand this knowledge. And then you get the opposite versions of that. The A, or the pointing out, the shooting out, the assertion, the exertion. Pushing forward rather than just taking in. So, right there is the polarity, the duality that exists in all of reality. The constant in and out, going in and out of things, taking in and out, going in, you know what I'm saying? The gender, the male and female that exists, aka divine masculine and divine feminine. This energy exists in all of reality. So much so that even the non-sentient beings, even the life forms that you wouldn't call a life form, those are still participating in this cosmic dance between divine masculine and divine feminine. Shiva and Shakti. The whole idea of Kundalini, bringing these energies into one to create all of existence, to bring something into this world. Now, going back to my original point when I was talking about inspiration and living your inspirations out. That's a prime example right there of that cosmic dance, that Kundalini, the magic. Taking the internal world and bringing it to the external world. Bringing your dreams, your imaginations, your creativity, and bringing it into the way where not only just you are the one that's experiencing them, but everyone else around you can experience these things too. Think about the freedom that can be had in you simply just pushing your imagination out there to someone else so that they can experience it as well. Think about the amount of connections you can have by doing such. Think about the amount of creativity that's being... Just look at all of art, all of existence, because that is what art is. You know what I'm saying? The earth without art It's just Pretty sure y'all heard that before. But let's look at all of art. We got movies, we got books, we got fucking TV shows, we got fucking actual visual art. All of this shit is just an example of someone jumping into their internal worlds and bringing it out. Again, that magic. That's a real quick segue too. Is that artists are more likely to tap into these spiritual understandings just based off of the fact of what it is that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You living in the realm of creativity. You're living in the realm of the subconscious. You're living in the reality of bringing your reality here. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is what you do on a daily basis. So just by default, you will come to understand what magic is all about. You know what I'm saying? That is the creativity. And I only say that to say this. For all the artists out there who are actually deep into the occult or deep into spirituality, and that they identify as magical artists or whatever the case may be, I just want to leave a personal message that your art doesn't have to be literally about magic. You know what I'm saying? You don't always have to make art about signs and symbols. You don't always have to make mandalas. You don't always have to make art referencing mythology. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're still trying to bring some sort of occult wisdom into your art, it can be in anything. When you understand that the spiritual world is a part of everything, you can use everything to be a part of the spiritual world. You see what I'm saying? You can do the as above, so below within all of creations. It doesn't have to be just specifically magical elements or magical symbols or whatever the case may be. And I'm speaking right here for the true mage or the true occultist. They already know the importance of obscurity. They know the importance of not revealing the fact that every time you're doing magic, you're doing magic. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to tell everyone the time you're doing a spell or a ritual that, hey, this is a spell, this is a ritual. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, put the medicine in the candy. You know what I'm saying? You can, whatever type of creativity, whatever type of imagination you have, and you're trying to bring the spiritual side into it, you can do that. It can be in anything. It doesn't have to be just magical elements, like I said. But yeah. Back to the divine masculine and the divine feminine aspects. The constant in and out. The constant pushing out and taking in. What we all do. The thing is that we're in a dimension right now, we're in a reality where the receptive energy, the constant taking in energy, aka the divine feminine, is under restraint. It's basically locked up in chains, in shackles. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's obvious, you know, like, I'm not saying anything new. We already know this. We can see this in just daily life from how society is being constructed. You know what I'm saying? How governments have been constructed. Education, healthcare, all of these systems and institutions are ran by a patriarch system. It doesn't matter where you at. It doesn't matter what country you at, whether you're in America or not. 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, you're living in a patriarch system. That's one prime example right there of the divine feminine being under restraint. But that's honestly a lower frequency example, a lower dimensional example. If we look at it even more metaphysically, even more higher in nature, the divine feminine can be represented as, well, again, your receptive energies. So let's look at your receptive energies on a personal level, just your personal body. Your receptive energies are your senses. You know what I'm saying? Constantly, you're receiving smell frequencies, sound frequencies, constantly you can feel something. You know what I'm saying? Like constantly these things are being received as data points and collected internally. Now, the divine masculine taps in when you start to understand what it is you're smelling, what it is that you're seeing, what it is that you're feeling. Because the way the divine masculine works is it constructs things, it defines things, it restricts things. It even just when I say defines, when you give a definition to something, you're restricting the idea around this definition. You know what I'm saying? When you place a number on something, you're restricting the idea around this number. And that is what the divine masculine is all about. It's about giving structure and order to things. So the way your physical body is structurally based, the way your physical body is structurally aligned, structurally programmed, that is divine masculine. But the internals, the part that you don't see, that will be divine feminine. And that's getting to understanding the astrology aspects or even the Chinese metaphysics. That's why Chinese occultism define the divine masculine as the yang, the light, that which you can see. That is why astrology defines divine masculine energy as, again, the sun, that which you can see. Your body is what you can see. Even your internal organs, you can't see your internal organs, but if someone cut your ass open right now, they can show you your organs. They can show you your liver, your heart. You can see that. That is divine masculine. That is the structure. Now the divine feminine in astrology, that's the moon, the night, the darkness. Chinese metaphysics, that is yin. Again, the darkness, the dark aspect as in that which you do not see. That is the divine feminine. Now in your bodies, that which you do not see will be, again, your senses. And the restrictions, because that's the whole point of this video, the restrictions come into play in the fact that even when we just looking at your senses, you can only receive so many thoughts or so many visions, so many sounds, you can only receive so many of your senses at one time. Because the divine masculine jumps in the way and restricts you from being able to perceive all of these things. There's thousands of things that's happening before your eyes right now, but you can't even see that. You think about the air. The air is there and we know it's there, but you can't see that shit. That's getting to another form of the restrictions, just the physics of this outside world. We'll get into that. It's just knowing that you can only receive so much within your internal worlds. But the funny thing is that when you really think about it, your internal world is the freest world. Honestly, you can smell whatever the fuck you want to smell. You can smell a pizza right now, even if it's not in front of you. Think about it hard enough. You can see whatever the fuck you want to. Jump into your motherfucking imagination if you want to. Your internal worlds are honestly not restricted. It's just that in this reality, it is such, and that is because of everything that I want to talk about right now. The divine masculine in this reality. I want to stress that fact because it's not in all realities that this is happening. I come from a reality where this has already been passed. We've already surpassed this. We've already brought the divine masculine to an equal level of the divine feminine. But here, you see what I'm saying? The level is unleveled, and I don't know if we see it or not. I feel like I see it probably better than others. I don't know if it's because, because of my my chakras. You know what I'm saying? The way that I manifested myself here, my astrological chart, the fact that I'm the Knight of Venus, the fact that I'm the soul of Andromeda, the fact that I've already been through and seen this story before and I know how to overcome it. You know what I'm saying? So because I have that perspective, I feel as though here in this reality, that perspective isn't being pushed hard enough. You know what I'm saying? That perspective isn't being paid attention to long enough. And that's why we have so much of the fucked up shit that we have now. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not understanding the restrictions and where it's coming from and what the restrictions are being placed on. You know what I'm saying? The divine feminine is what is being placed on. Your internal natures, your internal worlds are being restricted here when it shouldn't be the case. But then again, we signed up for this shit. So I don't want to say it shouldn't be the case, because if it shouldn't be the case, then it wouldn't be the case. You know what I'm saying? So it is. We signed up for it. This is the school of hard knocks. This is the dimension of restrictions. You know what I'm saying? And it is through the restrictions that we actually understand freedom. That's the yin and yang of this reality. So the restrictions are necessary. Because without the restrictions here, there is no freedom. That's where there's a saying, through work, we are set free. Or some shit like that. That's some occult wisdom in that. And yeah, I'll be the first one to tell you that freedom is everything. You know what I'm saying? Try to get as much freedom as you can. But even I know that because I'm here with you right now. I can sit here and say I'm the Knight of Venus, I'm the soul of Andromeda, but I manifested myself into a physical body. So I experienced the same restrictions as you, regardless of the fact that I say that I come from places where I didn't have to do this. So because I experienced these same restrictions, I know that this is what it is. This is what we signed up for. This is a part of the game. You see what I'm saying? So the restrictions aren't necessarily a bad thing. That's one thing I want to stress too. Like, I'm not trying to make this a doomsday video and make this seem like this is all bad. This is all going to shit. Because honestly, us as a collective, us as humanity, we're moving forward. We're on a good path. You see what I'm saying? And if you see just the history of humans, we are getting closer and closer to freedom every day. Slavery still exists. Yes. Like the slavery you think about, like actual slavery still exists. But there was a time where it was everywhere, beyond just in small countries that we know of today, or should I say don't know of today, because they're not being talked about, right? There was a time where we was so trapped into this physical dimension that the only chakras that we could live from was the root chakra. The only thing we could do was live from survival mode. The only thing we could do was worry about fucking fighting and feeding, and that's it. And live to see it, do it the next day. But now, like I said, we're on the right path. We're at the point where we don't have to worry about those things anymore, at least not as much. Now we have the ability to really express ourselves and dive deeper into our internal worlds. Now we can actually go out and make some music. You know what I'm saying? Make some fucking art instead of worrying about, I gotta go kill this motherfucker real fast to get some food for the night and feed him. You know, you see what I'm trying to say? We're leaving this. I don't want to say we're leaving this reality, because we're still gonna be here, but we're leaving. Our feet are coming off the ground. You see what I'm saying? We're becoming more free. We're becoming more lighter. That's what we're becoming. We're becoming more lighter. But the thing is, we aren't doing it as fast as I know we could. And that's where my perspective comes into play. That's where my frustration comes into play. Because I feel as though, yeah, we on the right track. We making the right moves. But sometimes I feel as though we take a couple steps back. Or if we don't take steps back, the steps that we do take to progress ourselves, we take them so slow. You know what I'm saying? The steps that we do take to move forward, we move in fear to the point that, are we tiptoeing? And then anything that might be scary, we run back. And it's like, what the fuck progress did we make? And that's where I start to get frustrated with this shit. Because it's like, it's not rocket science. But we all got to be in accordance. It can't just be a few people who see the shit and everyone else who don't see the shit, because that's still no progression. You know what I'm saying? That's where, again, the restrictions come into play. Like, your internal worlds, you know what I'm saying? Your imaginations, your internal creativity, whatever that may be, and because it's going to look different for everyone else. You might like to cook, you might like to dance, you might like to write, you might like to experiment with shit and make different chemicals. Who fucking knows? Whatever you got going on in your imagination that you trying to bring out into this world, in some way, shape, or form, is going to be dealing with the divine masculine, aka restriction. Again, even with just physics. You see what I'm saying? Like, going back to what I'm saying, like, we getting lighter right now. We getting lighter, but we still trapped with physics. We still ain't motherfucking flying yet. We could have been learned how to fly. We could have been learned how to do telekinesis and control shit with our minds. We could have been learned telepathy and learn how to send messages to each other. But no, we still don't fucking know how to do that. And when we do learn just any tiny little bit, again, divine masculine jumps in the way, aka logic jumps in the way. Practicality jumps in the way and tells you, no, that's not possible. You can't do that. No, that's wrong. That's evil. That's demonic or whatever. You see what I'm saying? We could have been sped up the progress of all evolution, not just humanity, because that could be egotistic, just talking about humanity. I'm talking about all of life at this point. But even just humans, we could have been sped this shit up to where we fucking flying by now. Beyond just the planes and shit. Yeah, we got planes and shit. Yeah, we can fly. But we still ain't got flying cars, let alone us ourselves learning how to actually fly. And you don't need wings to fly. You understand what I'm saying? But that's the restrictions. That's the 3D realm. You know what I'm saying? Once you get past that and exceed that, you can see you have all of these supernatural abilities. Everyone does. You have all of these superpowers. You have all of these capabilities. But the only way you can see that and the only way you can actually use those abilities is by understanding, as I've been saying all along, where the restrictions are coming from, what they're being placed on, and how. AKA, the divine masculine is the motherfucker here in this dimension that's bringing you the restrictions. It's placing it on the divine feminine. And it's doing it in all of your realities, your internal worlds, the external world. You see what I'm saying? So, how do you break through that shit? How do you break the chains? How do you actually release the restrictions? Well, let's look at it from, because we can look at it in all aspects. I'm gonna go simple and then I'm gonna expand on it. So, how can we break the restrictions that's being placed on the divine feminine, right? Well, let's look at just on a personal level. Let's look at your divine feminine. Your divine feminine being your senses. You see what I'm saying? You got many senses beyond just the five senses. Me being common sense, I can tell you all about it. You know what I'm saying? You got your sense of time. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you put a certain amount of time and energy into something, you will start to have a sense for it. You understand what I'm saying? When you start spending a certain amount of time doing hair, spend a certain amount of time doing makeup, you spend a certain amount of time driving, you will have a sense for hair. You will just have a sense of what's good hair, what's not good hair, how to do this hairstyle, what's not. Same thing for makeup, same thing for driving. You will just have a sense of how to drive. You will have a sense of what's going fast, what's not. You will have a sense of when someone is driving too close. So you will have a sense for that energy. The more you spend time into that. So your time is your sense here. But that's restricted because you only got so much time in a day. You only got so much time on this planet, let alone in a day. And that's for all organisms. We all know that our time here is limited. You see what I'm saying? Even the sentient beings that can't speak and use language, they know they're gonna die one day. We all know it. So your time is limited. That's one of your senses. What else do you got? Your sense, as in, this is more if you're American, but still applies. Your sense, as in dollars, your money. You know what I'm saying? What you accumulate in the bank. That's limited. So much so that it doesn't matter how much money you do make. You start having multiple bank accounts. It's limited to the fact that the government gonna come in there with their motherfucking greedy ass hands asking you for some of that cash. Unless you start putting a whole bunch of money in there and not this one the hood niggas gonna understand this one. Let you get a bank account, put a whole bunch of money in there, and not tell them where that money came from. Oh yeah, that's your ass. The alphabet boys are on your ass. IRS, FBI, whoever, yeah, they on your ass. Where you get this money from? What you doing to accumulate this? It must not be legal. What I say? Restrictions. Motherfucking restrictions. Even if you're doing this shit right, even if you are doing legal shit and you got a whole bunch of money, them taxes gonna bite you in the ass. Restrictions, motherfucker. And that's just the government. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the prime ministers of restrictions in this reality. You know what I'm saying? Because all government is a patriarchy. But I should go deeper into that. Try and hold that thought. I want to talk about government. But yeah, what else you got? Because you got your sense, as in time, being restricted, your money being a restricted resource. And you can live in abundance. I'm not saying that. But you know what I'm saying. That when you get into the business world, you'll see the restrictions being placed on the dollar. And your senses that I said before, as in your actual personal physical senses, or should I say internal senses, physical senses. You can only receive so much sight. You can only receive so much sound. You can only receive so much taste at a time. You can only receive so many thoughts and emotions at a time. Now the thing is, because we all signed up for it, because this is something that we all know is happening, like this is just what it is, this is a part of the game, then we all need to understand that this is not a bad or good thing. This is not a right or wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? Because that, again, is getting you trapped into the idea of polarity, light and dark. You see what I'm saying? Divine masculine versus divine feminine. When instead it should be divine masculine equals divine feminine. They should be on equal ground. But constantly we put them up against each other. And 9 times out of 10, we in this dimension make the divine masculine become the winner in that shit. So even even in that example, it's like, even in that example, right? We always make the divine masculine a versus the divine feminine. So in the aspects of morality or the moral codes, we always have to see something as being good versus bad, instead of it's good and bad at the same time. It's equally good and bad. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is what the Buddhists were trying to tell you about when they say the middle path. Like this is what, like, everything that I'm saying right now isn't necessarily something new. But I'm about to come harder with this shit because, like I said, I feel like we gotta be a little more up to date with this shit. We gotta be faster with this shit. We can't be so slow in our movements in understanding these concepts. But back to the moral codes and shit like that. Like, that's where the first restrictions start to take place. And I just talked about that in my last video, talking about the moral codes. Like, that's where this shit really starts. Like, this is all the spiritual warfare begins with. The moral codes. That's what the game is built with. And once you learn the moral codes, you can reverse engineer that shit. You know what I'm saying? Start to hack that shit, make that shit work in your favor, get your cheat codes in your alignments and shit like that. But you gotta know it though. You gotta actually know what's going on. You gotta actually see the moral codes and see where the codes is coming from. And in the moral codes that I'm talking about, where the restriction come from, you always see things as good versus bad, right versus wrong. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just seeing the middle ground of that shit. It's always black or white instead of gray. It's always blue and red instead of purple. It's never actually seeing what the creation of both of these energies are actually bringing into existence. So just in that point alone, the moral code gets played into all of your daily routines, all of your daily actions that stop you from bringing your actual divine feminine, your internal world, into the divine masculine, the external world, the outside world. All because of the original trickery, the moral code, the original restrictions, the moral code, the original verses, masculine versus feminine. So instead of you jumping into your internal worlds and you doing this creative nature, or you feeling this way, or whatever the case may be, you don't do it because it might be seen as wrong. It might be seen as bad. It might be seen as dark, evil. You see what I'm saying? And that's where the government plays in. Because that's where the government, they know that this is where the first restriction ties in, the moral code. And so they use these moral codes and they create their own moral codes and they throw them onto you to help further the divine masculine initiative, which is restriction. You understand what I'm saying? And the moral codes that the government place onto you are played out in many different ways, and it's tricky how they do it. You know what I'm saying? They play it out in the institutions that I named earlier, like the healthcare system, the education system. You know what I'm saying? Politics and government. As soon as you go to school, some of the first things you learn is what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. Right thing to do is you walk in motherfucking line. You speak when motherfucking spoken to. Raise your motherfucking hands. Act in accordance. Listen, obey. Bow down and motherfucking obey. That's one of the first moral codes they give you. Healthcare system. No, don't try to figure this shit out for yourself. Don't go and do this because we say this is illegal. This plan is not good for you. This, that. No, take this. Yeah, it might fuck you up, and yeah, if you take this, you might be bleeding, you might do this, you might, yeah, but we'll give you something else on top of that. Just take, no, fuck that shit. But no, that's the moral code they give you too, is just bow down and obey. Listen to them. Listen to what they give you. And shit gets played out in other ways too, where it gets tricky. That you don't know that that's what they're doing. Where it gets played out in the media, where they're social signaling towards certain concepts and saying this is what's good and this is what's not good for society, instead of allowing you to jump more into your internal worlds to figure that out for yourself. And then you start getting a whole bunch of people pushing this same narrative that you don't even know where the narrative came from to begin with, but it just sounds good, so it must be good, right? Or not even just the media. Well, I guess media takes a lot of things though. Because I was going to say books. But that's another form of media. Like, media is just all the art forms, you know, books, you know what I'm saying, videos, movies, TV, all that shit. All that's media. But the restrictions get played out in tricky ways beyond just the media too. And like, I'm trying to think. I don't want to say politics, because that's the government. We already know about the patriarch system. But that's the thing. That's where it gets tricky, because you gotta really look for that shit. You really gotta see where this shit is coming from. Like, even just the social signaling in society that's beyond media, and just when you go into school, or when you're on media, or when you're in the world and you see social signaling of what's the right thing to do and what's the right thing to not to do, or what's the wrong thing to do, what's the right thing to wear, what's the wrong thing to wear. That's not cool to wear. This is cool to wear. That's not cool to drive. This is cool to drive. That's not cool to think. This is cool to think. Like, you get these social signaling in all aspects of life, beyond just beyond just the personal world that you think of. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's everywhere. And that's the moral code. That's the restriction. Now that we got this far, we know where it's coming from, and we know what it's being placed on, right? And we also know that it's not necessarily a bad thing, that this is just part of the game. My message now is to tell you how to play the game. Because it seemed like y'all don't know that yet, or y'all figuring it out, but y'all still scared and playing the game. So what I want to tell you is this: like, the divine feminine, yeah, it's restricted in this world, in this dimension, but so is the divine masculine. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're both restricted, and they're both honestly on the same level. Once you can see that, you will have the ability to jump between the two. You will have the ability to do that magic that I was speaking of before, what so many people say as kundalini. You know what I'm saying? That's beyond just physical nature. That's beyond just physical connection. That's beyond just physically bringing the internal worlds into the external worlds. That's doing it in all aspects of life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's when you have the ability to live in this 3D world and still be tapped into the spiritual world at the same time, instead of having to jump between the two, which is what religion has been teaching us to do for so long. You see what I'm saying? And now it's getting to the point where fake woke, fake spirituality, fake conscious community people are speaking about this and just furthering the narrative of what religion has already been doing. You see what I'm saying? Where it's not about jumping between the two. It's not about being spiritual here and then not being spiritual there, or being religious here and not being religious there. It's not about having a holiday. You see what I'm saying? It's not about having a specific moment where you're in these energies. It's about understanding you have the freedom, keyword, to jump into these energies whenever the fuck you please. And on a higher level, on a higher aspect, is you are able to be in, you're not just jump in, you're actually able to be in simultaneously all of these natures whenever the fuck you please. You see what I'm saying? So you can be in the spiritual world and the physical world at the same time. You can be someone who's conscious yet still out here doing whatever the fuck you gotta do to make ends meet at the same time. It doesn't have to be, oh, I just today on these days I praise God, or whatever the case you want, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be that. That internal dialogue, that internal connection, whatever the case, that bringing your words with God, you understand what I'm saying? You can do that all day, every day. You can be conscious of this shit all day, every day, in all aspects. Now, even still, I don't want to lead you astray. I don't want to just say that and say that there won't be moments where you're not trapped into the Maya, the illusion. You see what I'm saying? So there, even if you're someone who I look at myself as, who lives in the physical world spiritually, you know what I'm saying? Someone who is in between worlds. Even if you're that type of person, still there will be moments in life where you come across the restriction of you being in between worlds, aka instead of you being conscious of the unconscious and the subconscious and the superconscious, you will come to be unconscious in general, because that is the restriction that we all played up with, that we all signed up with. You know what I'm saying? This is the restriction of the game. This is the restriction that we all playing with. That is the Maya, the illusion. That is this world. The forgetfulness. Forgetting that God is in everything. Forgetting that the spiritual world is everything. Forgetting that the physical world and the metaphysical world are not separate. Forgetting that you and the person 10 houses down from you are not separate. That's the illusion. That's the Maya. That's the restriction that plays into the divine masculine, the structure of this world. You have your own structure, they have their own structure. But in the spiritual world, we all know what this whole thing is creating. This whole oneness. This whole equal ground between Shiva and Shakti, divine masculine and divine feminine. But yeah, that being said, once you know this shit, once you already know what's going on, you gotta go hard with this shit. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying you gotta go extreme, because extremes meet. If you understand what I was saying from before, you understand the middle ground. Instead of going so far into left or right, black or white, right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? You can easily just stay in the middle ground. That being said, you got to go hard with this shit and don't go extreme with this shit, but go as far as you can take it, to the point that finally we can bring the divine masculine to that equal ground. Because right now, like I said, it's uneven. And the only way to bring it back to an equal level, the only way to bring it back to an equal level, a level of evolution, the only way to do so is if, here's the thing, this is actually a good way to think about it, right? let's say this divine masculine right here and this divine feminine right here. Now, when I say go hard with this shit, I'm not saying just because that in itself is hard to do, trying to just push it to be there. And I'll explain why. What we're supposed to do here is bring this shit here to bring this shit there. You see what I'm saying? So we have to jump into the divine masculine to raise the divine feminine to bring it back up. Now, in other mystery schools and esoteric schools of thought, they actually have this shit flipped in reverse. They say that it is divine feminine energy that needs to be risen. They say it is Shakti that needs to be risen during the Kundalini process. But that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm common motherfucking sense. I am common. I'm telling you right now, it's the other way around. Like you was on the right path, but it's the other way around. Divine masculine has to jump down into these lower natures to bring them back up. You understand what I'm saying? That's the real Kundalini. So, that being said, you have to use your divine masculine to raise your divine feminine. What does that look like? Well, we just gonna look at it from just who I am in general, why I do the shit that I do, why I create the art that I create, why I call myself what it is that I call myself, why I say I'm the Knight of Venus, why I started this video off talking about being an infiltrator. You see what I'm saying? Because, mind you, again, this is all spiritual warfare. So, if we just look at day-to-day life and reality, because so many people get on here and start calling themselves metaphysical names or getting into spirituality, but they don't really know how to make this shit make sense. I'm telling you, I'm common sense. I'm gonna make this shit make sense. If we look at actual physical reality, let's look at warfare before we just make it spiritual. Let's look at reality warfare for a minute. Let's look there. Let's start there first, motherfuckers. If we look at reality warfare, 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10 in old history, we only see men fighting on the motherfucking field. Divine masculine energy. So that right there, prime example where the destruction is being sourced from, or where the destruction is being utilized, or who's utilizing it, should I say. Just look at regular war. It's motherfucking men, boys fighting and shit. And the divine masculine and divine feminine plays out beyond just men and women. But this is a low frequency example I want to give you right now. Boys, men are the ones that go to war. At least in humanity. I'm not saying females don't fight, and I'm not saying there aren't female soldiers. I got some in my family, but I'm just saying, like, in the history of things, in the grand scheme of things, it's all over some masculine shit. See what I'm saying? And in reality, it don't be over masculine shit. It just be a bunch of masculine energy participating in war. But it really be over some feminine shit. 9 times out of 10, war be over motherfucking land. Again, feminine shit, mother nature. Yeah, it be over motherfucking land. It be over resources. Again, something that's limited with fucking restrictions. Or it be over a motherfucking female if you want to get real low frequency with this shit. Think of how many beefs started over a female. You think I'm lying? You don't think there's countries that's beefing for the same shit but don't realize that's what they beefing? This shit get deep. All this shit happening over the divine feminine again. But it goes beyond just the physical body. It goes beyond just men and women. You see what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there. That's what I'm saying is, you look at war, that shit is men. Right? Now, me being the Knight of Venus, what does it take to be a knight? It takes a warrior. Right? 9 times out of 10, doesn't have to be, but 9 times out of 10, a male, masculine energy. You see what I'm saying? So boom. So much so that I come here as an actual man in this shit. I'm infiltrating the game now. Now I'm infiltrating the game. Because I'm not just a man. I'm a man of what? I'm the knight of what? I'm doing it for what? I'm a man of values. A man of integrity. Key word, in. I'm a man of integrity. My spiritual natures, I'm the knight of Venus. I'm a warrior for the motherfucking values. I'm a warrior for fighting for what the fuck you love. That's why I got 300 motherfucking episodes right now, where I end damn near all of those episodes with value your perspective. You think I ended that? You think I end those episodes with that for no reason? Value your perspective? What do you think that is? That sound like fighting for your motherfucking passion. That sound like fighting for your motherfucking love. If that's what it sound like to me. Well, are you listening? Do you get the message? That's the night of Venus. So it's not just no regular night. I'm not just coming on no regular war and shit. Not just on some regular warlock shit or some shit. I'm coming fighting for something else. I'm coming fighting for something that's been restricted for so long. And that's where the other side comes in, the soul of Andromeda. What it is I'm actually fighting for, the divine feminine, which has been chained and locked in this dimension. See what I'm saying? And like I said, we on the right path. We getting it there. We raising it, but we about to speed this shit up now that I'm on this bitch. But back to what I'm saying in terms of going hard with this shit, which is why I am talking about being an infiltrator, which is why I am talking about things of war, which is why I am speaking of being the knight of Venus. It's not just about the war too. What else is the night of Venus? The dark side of Venus, the darkness. That's what else does it take to be night? Darkness. You see what I'm saying? The shit that you don't see. The time when the sun is not around. The time when the divine masculine is dead, motherfucker. Do you understand? This shit get deep for real. Point blank period. That's what I'm talking about, where you gotta come hard with this shit. Where now, when you see that we at a point now where we have to use what was used against us. If I'm sitting here talking about war, it's a spiritual warfare, and they're using this shit against us. If I'm sitting here talking about it's a patriarchy, and the divine masculine is what's restricting us. If I'm sitting here telling you that's where this shit is coming from, I'm also saying, okay, now it's time to infiltrate that shit. Don't look at it as right or wrong. Because if you look at it as wrong, you will never infiltrate the shit. You will never get the idea to infiltrate the shit. Now, what do I mean by infiltrate the shit? I mean, you got to become that shit now. You got to jump into that energy now and become that. But do it from a conscious level. AKA, when you jump into that energy, don't just jump into that energy and then get lost into that energy and now you're actually that. No, do it for the sake of what you were actually doing it for. The night of Venus. When you jump into that masculine energy, do it for the sake of the feminine energy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Otherwise, you'll get lost in divine masculine. And that's part of the game too. That's what they want you to happen. Or want you to do. See what I'm saying? Because like when you start becoming more aware of what's going on and you do start tapping in to these natures, you'll start getting more examples in the real world that try to stop you or try to restrict you from doing this. You dig? And it comes in tricky ways, where it comes in the things that you love and the people you love. The divine masculine, the divine masculine is logic. The divine masculine is thinking, is mentality, is practicality. So that shit gets tricky because it'll start to play mind games. Whereas divine feminine is not about logic, it's about love. It's about feeling things. And the divine masculine will use that shit against you for some divine masculine shit. To the point that when you really start becoming woke, you really start becoming aware of what's really start becoming conscious of what's going on. The divine masculine will send the things that you love, the people that you love, to try and work against you. AKA the divine masculine will even use the divine feminine to continue to try to restrict you. Now you got family members, friends. Now you got your own passions frustrating you. Now you got all these things getting in your way, feeling like some form of restriction. Now you on top of the physical world, which has already been restricting you. And then the shit starts to make you feel like maybe you just shouldn't do it at all. And you see with this shit, and then that's where I say we take steps back. Or we move in fear. We don't go all the way when I know we can. That's what I'm talking about. And this is why I'm saying my message here as the Knight of Venus is you have to go hard with this shit. This is what I'm saying. When we try and, like, even if we look at the 60s, you know what I'm saying? Flower power and all that shit. Like, and shout out to that movement. Shout out to the feminists and all that shit. Even to the point that now we got radical feminists who try to understand everything that I'm saying right now, but they go left with this shit and they still being too much divine feminine energy. Like, shout out to that because y'all trying. We still getting there. But the point is that all these movements, which are fighting for divine feminine, you know what I'm saying? They're still doing it from the perspective of a divine feminine. So it's not really working. Do you get what I'm saying? If I'm telling you that this is the realm that's ruled by the divine masculine, why would you use anything other than the divine masculine to get ahead? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Or at least to bring shit back to equal ground. So when we got people fighting for the divine feminine, they want to come on some peace and love shit. Some ushy gushy shit, lovey dovey shit. And I get it, because that's the divine feminine. But you can't do that here. The time is over where all that shit probably worked. The time now you gotta come on some divine masculine shit. AKA, you gotta come hard with this shit now. You gotta come with some force with this shit now. You gotta come with some assertion with this shit now. Some aggression with this shit now. Instead of some passivity with this shit now. Stop being so motherfucking passive all the time. It's time to be assertive with bringing your internal worlds into the external worlds. And stop giving a fuck or who looks at you like you crazy, or looks at you like you can't do it, or looks at you like you being egotistic just because you doing what the fuck you knew you were supposed to be doing in the first place. Stop giving a fuck. Value your motherfucking perspective. That's my motherfucking message. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That is the release. That is the freedom of the divine feminine. Now, I'm the soul of Andromeda. I've done this already. I've lived this story out. I've already freed myself in other realities. In the way that I did it. Just look at my story. I've already told you beyond before I just manifested myself here physically. Before I came here as an actual man now, I told you my story. I told you that the man with wings, the motherfucking angel, the motherfucking this God that came out of nowhere, just came out of motherfucking nowhere and saved your ass from the motherfucking locks and the chains that was on you, that trapped you in that motherfucking ocean. Having you getting surrounded by a motherfucking monster. Now you finna getting eaten alive so you can come back to this reality and keep on doing the same shit over and over and over again as a motherfucking human sacrifice for the ego of the government. That's different. That's not even different. That's going deep. But long story short, I told you the motherfucking story already. I told you what came and saved you. I told you what released you from that shit. I told you already. You gotta jump into your motherfucking warring divine masculine energy. And in doing so, you gotta jump down into that shit. Don't be some motherfucking high horse. You gotta jump down and play the game. Come back down here. Yeah, do that. Because that's what you have to do to come back up. That's what the pendulum swings for, motherfuckers. Y'all so stuck in one either or. So that being said, you gotta come hard. You gotta come in some divine masculine. You gotta come damn near angry sometimes. You gotta come aggressive. You gotta come in a way that it look like you against them, or you going against what the fuck you really going for. That's what you really gotta do. You gotta play reverse psychology with these motherfuckers. That's what the infiltrator is all about. You gotta look like you going against what the fuck you going for. You dig what I'm saying? Like you think it's a coincidence that me being the soul of Andromeda, the night of Venus, that I manifested myself here as a man? When I just told you divine masculine is what's going against the divine feminine in this world? Okay, so I manifested myself as that then. And in this reality, that's all we see. It looks like the men are constantly going against our women, to the point that we have so much relationship turmoil in humanity. So many divorces. So many broken shit. You see what I'm saying? Looking like I'm the opposer, but really I'm just infiltrating the shit. Or even more so like, not just any man, right? Being a man from the hood. You know what I'm saying? Hood nigga. Even that is playing the game. Even that is infiltrator. So when we think about a hood, as I sit here with my hood on, I ain't even have my motherfucking scarf with my eyes on, but trust me, I'm still seeing all the shit in the spiritual world. As I'm sitting here with my motherfucking hood on, let's understand what a hood is. Hood is divine feminine. Don't believe me? Just look at a vagina. Bet you'll see a fucking hood. At least before virginity. The hymen, the actual hood of that shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? Divine feminine. Or even on a lower frequency, the hood, the neighborhood being the receptive energy, that which contains, the neighborhood contains the population, contains the men, contains the human, right? That's what the neighborhood holds. The neighborhood, the hood, is the feminine. Being a man from the hood is just another example of the night of Venus. You see what I'm saying? Like being an infiltrator of that shit, where you're using that which is given the restrictions. You're using that to help release those restrictions. You understand what I'm saying? Versus being the one that is restricted. Now this one gonna get deep. Like even like when I say that, look, instead of being the one that is restricted, an example of being the hood nigga, right? Like you look at the hood females, and honestly, like I said, we on the right path, and things are changing, honestly. So a lot of times females are getting into positions a lot faster than men, especially in the hoods, because the men are starting to get so lazy, and the women are starting to get on their ass and figure this shit out. And that's what they doing the shit though. They using the divine masculine and jumping into this shit for their divine feminine. They going out and creating their businesses. They going out and creating some structure. They going out and building their households. You know what I'm saying? Now women is stepping up to the plate, and the men are falling back. And it might look like that's bad. It might look like that's wrong, but that's really what's kind of supposed to happen to bring things back to accordance, because we have been so unaligned for so long. You got some more water? No. But that being said though, damn. All right. My fault. On this bitch for a whole hour running straight through. Come on, off the top of my head. Give me a break. Give me a break. Speaking of breaks, I might take a little smoke break right now. Who's with me?
Me.
Go do that. But yeah, that being said though, right? My bad for the little intermission. But in terms of the restrictions, right? Like jumping into that divine masculine to free the divine feminine. And we looking at it in the aspects of the hood. Like, yeah, females are getting in a position now where they getting more money and more success than men a lot of times, but even still, the females are so much more restricted. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're already living in a patriarchy. We're already living in the realm of the divine feminine being restricted. And so we see women actually being restricted so much so in society. You don't think that's playing out 10 times harder in the hood? The hood being a representation of the divine feminine? You know what I'm saying? Because it ain't even just a regular hood. Because when you look at the hood, you got the neighborhood, then you got the hood. Break that word down. Well, the hood will be the actual container of that neighborhood. You see what I'm saying? The hood is the actual root word of that word. The nay is just the fucking prefix or whatever the, you know what I'm saying? Like the hood is the actual thing. Like the hood, that's the divine feminine. So if you got the hood being a divine feminine and you got women being another representation of the divine feminine, then that means women in the hood are experiencing a lot of restrictions. A whole lot more than you probably think. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to speak on some doomsday shit because we own abundance. You know what I'm trying to say though. So much so that that's why you see people in low poverty areas who start doing other weird shit. Or I don't want to say weird shit because I'm not judging. Trust me, I'm common sense. I'm not judging. But you'll see people, for lack of better words, start doing strange things for a piece of change. You know what I'm saying? You'll see people who are so trapped in survival mode, who are so trapped in their root chakra, aka trapped, restricted, who are so trapped in just trying to make ends meet. So trapped in trying to make ends meet. So trapped in that now you see women in these areas rely on prostitution, stripping, other types of sex work. I'm not looking down on that. Those were some of the first jobs. But even that alone should have you wondering, if those were some of the first jobs, that makes you think where jobs come from. Jobs in general. Think about this shit. This shit get deep. This shit is old as time. Like, what I'm saying ain't new. The divine masculine has been doing this shit. And it's going to continue to do this shit. You just got to know it and jump in this shit and reverse it. But yeah, as I'm saying, so much so that you got women doing, sex work. And that's not looking down on that. But a lot of people who's doing sex work don't necessarily want to do sex work. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are just doing it for survival mode, just to make ends meet. Now, if you're doing it because that's just you bringing your internal worlds and into the external world, more power to you. You know what I'm saying? But for other people, like, they don't have a choice. You did. This ain't no fun and games for them. Or even beyond just sex work. You got people out here trapping, selling drugs, selling things, harmful chemicals and harmful substances to people that they know will hurt them. Well, not hurt them. People that they know. You know what I'm saying? People out here selling drugs to their family members, selling drugs to their friends. Not just any drugs, selling drugs that they know will hurt them. That's what I'm trying to say. You see what I'm saying? You got all this shit going on in the hood. And you got women doing this shit a lot of the time. Yeah, it's women trappers. You better motherfucking believe it. I seen plenty of motherfucking women trappers. You dig what I'm saying? Or other shit. Scammers. You know what I'm saying? Where they do what I'm telling you to do, where they go and infiltrate a system and do that shit, but they do it in a weird way. Sometimes they do it wrong, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, women in the hood motherfucking restricted too. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole different topic. But that's why I'm saying, me as the Knight of Venus, the soul of Andromeda, being an infiltrator, I manifested myself here as a black man, a man of the hood. Keyword, black man. You dig what I'm saying? Like, I could have been anything else, but I came black man. That's another thing. The shit get motherfucking deep if you see it. But there's no coincidence why I manifested myself here as that, being an infiltrator, being the soul of Andromeda, because I already understand you have to use the masculine energy. Now the funny thing is, now the feminine energy is the one that's holding all the power. The feminine energy is the one that is the source of power. That's why the masculine energy is placing restriction here on the feminine energy. Because the feminine energy is the one that got all the goodies. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, since you got all the goodies that I don't have and I can't enjoy it and you can just enjoy, no, you mine's now. I'm controlling you now. This is that, yeah, my word, my say, yeah. That's what's going on. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, that's when you know you got to use the shit. That's when you know you got to use the shit, man. Like, okay, you got to use this shit against you. Or use the shit against it, not use the shit against you. Use the shit against it. Like, it's already being used against you. That's the thing. When I say it's being used against you, so much so that I'm sitting here telling you that you have to be a warrior, you have to be a knight, you have to go hard in this shit because it's being used against you. But even when you do that shit, it's going to continue to be used against you. And that's why you have to go hard with this shit. That's why you have to be tough with this shit. Because the divine masculine is going to use your divine feminine against you. When you start jumping into your emotions and you start having your ability to jump into any emotion that you want to, now it's going to be used against you. Now people are calling you emotional. People calling you emotionally unstable. People calling you crazy because you can't stick to one emotion. Or when you do stick to one emotion, you stick to it for so long that it just doesn't make sense. You see what I'm saying? Because now you jumping into your divine feminine. But when you do that in this reality, it's restrictive. It doesn't make sense here. Keyword, sense. Or in other realities, you jump more into your imagination. You know what I'm saying? Another form of divine feminine. Because it's energy you cannot see. You can see your imagination, but you can't see it physically. You can't really see it. But let you jump fully into your imagination. See how fast motherfuckers start calling you crazy. Start calling you delusional. Start saying you don't make sense. You see what I'm saying? Key example. Using your divine feminine against you. That you start diving more into your pleasures. The sense, your senses. What actually you sense and what you want to sense right now. Let you start doing that. People start calling you a hedonist. People start calling you promiscuous. People start calling you a lover of the senses, which sounds like it doesn't mean a bad thing. That usually has bad connotations. See what I'm saying? Thinking that you just trapped into the body. Where my whole point is, it's never about either or. It's about understanding the whole thing, seeing all of it. But it'll be used against you. So, knowing that the more you use your divine feminine energy, the divine masculine will get in the way And a lot of the times it will get in the way pretending to be the divine feminine. Knowing that you have to go hard with this shit. I'm going to keep on stressing that fact. This is why. Because in you taking it as far as you possibly can is you using your divine masculine at that point. That is you jumping into that warring energy. That is you actually going and fighting for that thing that you love. You understand what I'm saying? Now that's you doing what I've been telling you all these eons. That's what I've been telling you all these eons, that once you finally use that divine masculine, which we know is what's giving us the harm, so we look at it as evil, but we don't say it verbally as evil. We'd rather say the darkness, the divine feminine is evil, because that's what they say, but we know where the restriction is really coming from. Even still, because of that, because we look at it as evil, because we know this, that, and the third, we don't use it. We don't jump into those natures, and we don't use the divine masculine in the way that we know it can be used. So, that being said, don't be afraid to jump into your warring energies when it comes to your divine feminine. As a matter of fact, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're here to do. You see what I'm saying? That's honestly the magic. That's honestly what we're like. That's part of the game. That's why we signed up for it, because that is what helps us do the Kundalini exercise. That's what actually helps us do the connection between Shiva and Shakti. That's what helps us actually do the oneness, the coalition of masculine and feminine energy. It is the friction that exists between that. You need some friction to create something. Do you understand? You need some fight energy. You need to come with some aggression. You need to come with some divine masculine. Stop being so motherfucking scared. You dig what I'm saying? Stop being a motherfucking pussy. Puns intended this time. Because if you want to fight for your pussy, you're going to have to use some divine masculine. You dig? And that's real shit for you. Damn, drop the L. Ain't nobody fucking my bitch. My girl right here.
What's wrong with you?
But nah, yeah. Fuck. You just gotta come hard this shit. You can't be scared, man. And the reason I'm saying all this, like, and I'm gonna have to do if you made it this far in the video, then you'll probably be interested in my other video too, where I'm gonna do a whole video breaking down my astrological alignment and my chart, and you'll understand why I say I'm the Knight of Venus. You'll understand why I say I'm the Sword of Andromeda, and then you'll see all the connections, the correlations with why I talk the way I talk, or why I'm manifesting myself here as who I am, or even why my message is what it is, or even why my art is what it is. Going back to the whole idea of being the infiltrator. Just that example alone. Now, there's a whole different video. This deserves its own explanation. But even just that alone, like, look at I'm using the infiltrator energy right there in all the art that I do. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I did that little segue at the beginning of this video, that as an artist, you don't have to make all of your art that's magical be obviously about magic. Understand the importance of obscurity. Understand that you have to bring spirituality is an essence. It's not something you can just physically represent all the motherfucking time. So imbue that into your creativity. that is infiltrating the spiritual world into the physical world. That is bringing the internal world into the physical world. And as for me, on a more direct example, right? I do all types of art. One of the first forms of art I was doing like very social art, very politically driven art. You see what I'm saying? But I realized what I just told you now. It doesn't have to be so literal. It doesn't have to be so direct. In that, in fact, if you're really trying to do some magic, you might want to use some obscurity. You might want to use some abstraction. You know what I'm saying? And you might want to use some polar energies, some polar opposites. You don't want to just be all in one side too much. You want to start doing that pendulum shift that I was speaking of and jump into the side of the opposition. So once I realized that, I realized, okay, my political art, my social art, it's too direct. You know what I'm saying? It's too in your face with it. Like you know what's being said, you know, which isn't necessarily what it's all about. It's about bringing that obscurity in, like I said before. So then I start getting more into abstraction. But then I start getting restrictions. You see what I'm saying? And that's where the restrictions started to play in for me. Because here I am, just an artist. I'm just making shit. Now I'm trying my hardest not to be so obviously political or obviously morally based. You know what I'm saying? If anything, I'm trying to jump out of that and get more into the middle ground. You see what I'm saying? And not see things as so left or right or wrong, black and white. You see what I'm saying? And in me trying to find my way to reach that middle ground, and you're gonna experience this too in whatever it is that you're doing. It doesn't have to be art. It can be anything. It can be motherfucking cooking. But this is what I was saying, where it's like the game will start to know you're playing. It'll know and start to send more restrictions. But in me playing that middle ground, I started to get more restrictions, because what comes with playing the middle ground in this reality in terms of the divine feminine? You got to go hard, like I said. So you got to go as far as you can possibly push it. So I do something, like I said, originally politically society driven. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to raise the frequencies, but I'm trying to make it not so obvious. So I make an image referencing how women can't show their nipples, but men can. This was years ago that I made this. All it was, and the funny thing is, in the image, it was a female mannequin, not even a real human. This is the tricky part. It was a mannequin with the chest censored out. Keyword, censored out. All that shit was censored out, and still, some way, somehow, that shit got restricted. Somehow. You dig what I'm saying? I didn't even, it was fucking nothing on there. And that's when I realized the game knows that I'm playing the game. You know what I'm saying? Because it was that was one of the first posts where I was being political, but not in your face with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a message with that shit, but I wasn't really like, oh, free the nipple. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's in your face. It was an allegory, like so many mythologies are. I created my own mythology all in that one moment. And the divine masculine knew that, and they didn't like it. And that's why it received a form of restriction. So you know what I did? Me being an Aries too, Motherfucking Knight of Venus. Rebellious ass motherfucker. A hood nigga too. You can't tell me shit. Bro. Once that happen, I already don't like law. You know what I'm saying? I already don't like motherfuckers just telling me what the fuck to do just cause you said it. So especially when you tell me I shouldn't be doing something when I know for a fact I'm doing something from the wholeness of my heart, pure intentions to help society. When I know that that's my intention and you come telling me I shouldn't be doing this, oh yeah, I'm gonna turn it up on your ass. Because I would turn it up if I was just doing it for me. But if I'm sitting here telling you I'm doing this for reasons beyond myself, and you telling me I can't do it, you know how hard I'm gonna go for this shit? Now you done manifested motherfucking Knight of Venus. Now you done manifested a motherfucking warrior for this shit. So all the shit you telling me I can't do, now I'm finna infiltrate it some more. You know what I'm saying? Learn all about the infiltrator shit. You gotta be an infiltrator. You gotta hack. I'm not talking about literally, but you can get into that too, because the way technology going, you better learn some computer science. But, and I know all about that too. But you gotta be the infiltrator. Like, once that shit started going on, I started seeing those restrictions, I became even more the infiltrator. I'm like, okay, you know what? Cool. I see what's going on now. Now I'm finna use this shit against y'all. Now the shit that you saying that I can't do, I'm gonna do the same shit. I'm gonna obscure the shit though. I'm gonna abstract the shit. I'm gonna see how far I really take the shit and reach that middle ground and see what the fuck you say then. And beyond that, whole time on some metaphysical shit, and this ain't religious, so don't take these words that I'm saying as religious. On some spiritual shit. When I start doing these things and when I start getting more into these natures and creating these things, I realize I'm out here slaying demons. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is real spiritual warfare. I'm actually killing dark entities that's leeching off of motherfuckers. And guess who they leeching off of most of the time? The divine feminine. You understand what I'm saying? Now, the divine feminine plays out in more than just men and women. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but they play out in more than just men and women. So if you're a man, you have divine feminine energy in you, regardless of what you identify as. If you're a female, you have divine feminine energy, regardless of what you identify as. You know what I'm saying? And like I said before, we already becoming hip. We on the right path. We're becoming more aware of the spiritual world. We're becoming more aware of the freedom that we actually possess. And so that's why you see so much of the obsession with gender in society right now. That's why you see so much of the obsession with identity right now. Because we're starting to understand the true natures of that pendulum swift, the androgyny that actually exists within all of us, the actual spiritual nature, androgynous. We almost there. We almost getting there to understand that, but we getting there. That's why you seeing so much of this shit right now. That's why you seeing it. Trust me, I'm telling you. So don't be freaked out and be like, oh, this is bad for society. Just trust me when I tell you, there's a spiritual thing that's going on with that. You understand? And even though it might look weird or might look wrong, it's actually in reverse. It's actually the right thing spiritually. So a lot of people wasn't ready for that one. But yeah, so that being said, that's why I'm manifesting myself here. That's who I am. That's why I do what I do. That's why I feel like you gotta do the shit that you do as hard as you can. Push it to the motherfucking limits. But when you do that shit, obscure that shit. Abstract that shit, because otherwise the masculine is gonna know. And even still, they might realize, and when they do that shit, you gotta use the masculine energy even still. You gotta war. You gotta fight. The fight is in the continuation. The not giving up. The continue to strive. The continuation of striving. You get what I'm trying to say. God damn it. to continue to push forward, to move forward. The divine masculine, that's keep on moving forward. That's, yeah. So that's how the shit manifests with me. You tell me I can't do this shit, now I'm gonna keep on moving forward with this shit. Divine masculine, warring with this shit. All for the sake of the divine feminine. And that was my point too. I didn't even finish my point. I was talking about slaying demons. When I really started going to war with this shit, I started realizing I'm slaying demons in this motherfucker. Like on some metaphysical shit. I realized I'm killing, and I'm not even killing them because these entities, it's not like they can die. And if you got some shit clinging on to you that you didn't deal with, you have to deal with it yourself. I don't give a fuck who the fuck you go to. But you can go and get some help from other people. You can go and get your spiritual mediums and this, that, and the third. Yeah, sure. And that's where I came into play. Like, I realized I was slaying demons for people. I didn't even realize I was doing it at first. You know what I'm saying? I'm just fighting a good fight on some other shit. I'm still fighting the overall patriarchy. But then, as I'm doing it, and I'm talking to individuals on a personal level, I see that this is beyond just fighting the patriarchy. This is beyond just the objective. You know, this is also getting into the subjective and understanding that now the shit that I'm doing, I'm actually helping other motherfuckers understand their freedom, understand their divine feminine, understand where their restrictions are coming from, understand how they can release those restrictions. And it's crazy. It's so crazy, bro. It's so crazy how this shit plays out. It is. Because I'm sitting here, before I even go heavy into this shit, I already know that this is the right path. I fucking drop out of college for this shit because I know I'm doing something spiritually. You see what I'm saying? And then it wasn't until after I dropped out of college. I didn't even have no confirmation. See, that's the thing. I had no physical confirmation. I had no external confirmation that told me that this is going to be the right path or not. But I still jumped into my divine feminine and went hard with this shit and didn't give a fuck. To the point that I dropped out of motherfucking college. Dropped out of trying to go and get that logic, that divine masculine energy. I already got enough. I'm gonna keep the buck with you. I got a lot of divine masculine energy. I'm here fighting for divine feminine. For the sake of creativity, for the sake of receptivity, for the sake of connection. So that being said, yeah, I'm just ranting. I'm going long. That being said, I jump out this shit without even having any form of physical confirmation. And it wasn't until after I dropped out of college. It wasn't until after I kept on moving forward with the shit and not giving a fuck. Moving forward, going direct with my shit, my goals, aka using the divine masculine energy, but doing it all for the sake of the things that I value, aka using the divine masculine for the divine feminine to free it. Do you get what I'm saying? It wasn't until after I did that I created examples that showed me this is the right path. That showed me you're helping people on an individual level. That showed me, yeah, this might look crazy to some people, but you know for a fact that you're helping people. It wasn't until after I kept doing this shit. That's why you gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? Give a fuck about how this shit look. You don't know what the fuck you might end up really doing in the spiritual world. Now, I'm a whole motherfucking knight. You know how many motherfucking demons I done slayed? Now I'm on here and I got the testimonies. Now I can sit here and talk about it and I can tell y'all motherfuckers how to do the same shit. You dig what I'm saying? But yeah, that's that. I feel like I said everything I wanted to say. And I really didn't, to be honest. I gotta do that birth chart video so that y'all can really start seeing the correspondences too. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. We gotta see where the restriction is coming from and know where it's being placed on and why. I'm gonna tell you that. I already told you, but I'm gonna tell you one more time. The restrictions are coming from the masculine energy. They're being placed on the divine feminine. And it's doing it for the sake of control. This is spiritual warfare. So in order to release these chains that has been placed on the divine feminine in this reality, you have to use the divine masculine. You have to use the opposer. You have to infiltrate. Common motherfucking sense.